What's up, guys? Welcome back to Table Talk Tuesday. My name is Joseph,
Daniel here.
and today we're talking about anxiety.
Anxiety, very light topic.
Yeah,
we like taking these light ones because it's very easy to do. Now, anxiety, because I don't know if you're in your conversations with people, that it's very common among many people, but especially among the younger generation.
Yeah.
And I got some statistics up here that it says that 31.9, so basically 32% of U.S. adolescents, that's 13 to 18, have some sort of anxiety disorder, or they wrestle with anxiety and stress and depression, all that category. That's a lot from 13 to 18. And then it goes up from 18 to 25 to about 36%. And I'm like, this is a large amount of people. You're talking getting close to 40% of people asked are saying they wrestle with some sort of anxiety and stress. So I'm like, what is it that plays into this? Like, why do we seem to wrestle with so much? And it could be crippling to people. It could be people can go so far as to end their own life with it. And so, like, what do we do? How do we approach it? Like, and what's your thoughts?
I don't know. That's crazy. That's a pretty big number. I've definitely felt anxiety in my life. Actually, not too long ago, when I got in my car accident.
Oh yeah. I shouldn't laugh at you. I guess that's kind of sad.
Ever since I got in that car accident, my car got totaled. I felt anxiety or fear to drive, and I've been like getting over that slowly.
Yeah. So it can definitely cripple how you do things. So like when you first get in the car, because I've been in a car accident before, it does, like, you kind of like are hesitant everywhere you go, like every stop sign, everything like that. And so that's just like a small sliver of it when people are dealing with it in different ways. And so it can be very, depending on the level someone wrestling with it, it can be very crippling. It could really limit them even wanting to do anything in life.
Yeah.
And they might go to church every Sunday, but they're like, I don't really feel like approaching anything in life. I can't go to work. Whatever levels, but it could be very crippling. And so we got to start asking this question of, like, how do we begin to approach anxiety in a biblical way, and how do we begin to wrestle with it in a right way? And again, this is not getting into like science or medication. This is just wanting us to reflect a little bit on certain things I think play into anxiety and depression. Now, this is not going to give a one fix all. This is just a self-reflection, like, hey, maybe this plays into some things in my life of why I'm wrestling with anxiety and stress. And so one of the things I think of that plays into it is identity.
Definitely identity. Yeah.
Identity. And how do you see people looking for identity? Like, where do you see people looking for identity?
I think oftentimes people look for their identity in different things, but it could be anything from like their job to like their friends or their hobbies or things that they do, and they'll put their full identity in it.
Yeah, and I've done that too.
Yeah,
it's like, this is who I am, and now those things aren't necessarily bad. Like, work is good, and these different things. So they're not all necessarily bad, but the problem is when we now make whatever that thing is our identity. It's who we are. And so let me give you an example. So say you are a basketball player, because I know you're a baller. I've seen you. He broke my hoop, by the way. Yeah. So such a baller. He shot a really bad like a backboard shot. You shattered the hoop.
I made the shot. Though.
How hard did you throw that ball?
I threw it normal.
Like backboard. You like
backboard shot
over the head? Did you like Shaq shot? Like what?
I did a normal shot, but I made the shot. So
you made a shot. At least did you win?
I did win, actually.
Okay, then worth the broken hoop.
Yeah.
But you still owe me a hoop.
Wow.
Hey, someone tag some links for hoops for him to buy for me.
Yeah.
All right, I appreciate that. But back to basketball, okay? So if like everything was you about being a basketball player, like from a kid you started playing basketball, I remember as a kid, I'd be outside playing basketball. That's the only thing I do. I'd practice dribbling right, left. And so people take that to the extent, and they go to high school, play basketball, college. Maybe they go to the NBA, whatever the case. Like, their life is basketball, but then they get a career-ending injury.
Yeah.
Now that's where the issue comes in. You get a career-ending injury, and then they're stuck with this question of, who am I? Now I have no idea who I am. Now it's understandable they're going to be sad about not being able to play basketball. Like, you're not going to be happy about that.
Yeah.
But they're dealing with a deep-rooted thing now of their identity. I have no idea who I am. I'm lost. And like, that's where we get into significant stress and anxiety, because you've put your full identity as, this is who I am, and now it's gone. The same thing with work. So say your whole identity is in this type of job. You get fired, or the job goes under, or you retire. Like, now you don't do it anymore. And now you're like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so me and Joseph are big UFC fans. And for those who don't know, Ultimate Fighting Champion. I mean, it's just great fighting. Okay, big fans. John Jones is the GOAT. He's semi-retired, like retired, but keeps saying he's not really retired. I don't know what he's doing.
I don't know.
He should just be retired. One of the best. George St. Pierre too. I'd say he's probably one of the best. He's probably a GOAT too.
Yeah.
But like, we're big UFC fans, and one of the a huge impact in the women's division for UFC was Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
And she was really kind of what put it on the map. And there's other amazing women fighters who fought since then too. But she kind of put things on the map in a lot of ways. And this is something with her. She was a champion. She was basically, no one could stop her until this one fight where she was defending her belt, and she got knocked out so fast. I look at the time frame; it was very short, like how long the fight was.
Wow.
And she got knocked out so fast, and then she had to go to the hospital. And she says in an interview how she was in the hospital, like wrestling with, like, man, if I'm not this anymore, this champion, that who am I? Is life even worth living? This idea of, like, she was wrestling with deep things, and she was very emotional about it. You're like, and you sit back and think, wait, how did it go from you losing a belt, which is obviously sad, you don't want to lose the championship belt, to now wondering if life is worth living?
Yeah.
I'm like, there's something's happened there. It's because you've put your full identity in this. And so, where should we? So we see these, and you can pull out a lot of different things. You can put it in relationships. You mentioned that, and I just think of sometimes that people, you can see it with people to put it in, like, especially in high school, you see people always need to date someone. So it's like there's like an issue of, like, always that some sort of way defines me. And so then we want to step back and ask ourselves, and okay, who or what am I putting my identity in? So am I putting my identity in something like these that is going to leave me in some sort of way, and I'm going to be left kind of like, what's going on with my life? Who am I? And then wrestling with stress and anxiety. So we should step back and be like, hey, where should I put my identity in? So what's your thoughts? Where should we put our identity in?
I think you should only put your identity in God. But what does that look like? I guess the question is.
Yeah. So what does it look like? So put our identity in God. What does it look like to put our identity as a starting place to putting it in God?
Well, I would look to God, and I would really ask Him what He wants me to do with my life, and then just follow His path. Because when you start looking for things to put your identity in, you're gonna see some things that might look tempting to put it in, like you might want to put it in your friends, but then when your friends don't become your friends anymore,
or they just move away or whatever. Yeah.
And so, look to God and follow His path, and then you can't get hurt.
I think of you could go through hard times. That's a fact. So we talked about that, but so I think of a guy in the Bible named David. All right, and many people are familiar with him, especially the story of David and Goliath. It was a young boy defeated a giant named Goliath, but before he defeated the giant named Goliath, and before all this point, you have a situation where God sent the prophet, hey, you're going to go anoint the next king. The next king, he didn't tell him who it was going to be, but it was going to be David. He just told him, hey, go to Jesse's house. Jesse was David's father. And he said, go to his house, he's going to be there. So then he goes. He's like, okay. Goes to the house. He's like, and the oldest comes forward. He's like, oh, this must be it. This got to be who the next king is. God's like, no, it's not. And it just goes through son after son. I believe it's 7 brothers. It goes through all of them, and God said, no.
Mm-hmm.
And and then he's kind of like, Jesse, is anybody else here? God told me to come to this house, but he said no to all your sons. Do you have any other sons? And he's like, oh yeah, David, he's outside. They're basically out in the field. And I stop and think about, wait a second. David wasn't even brought in. Like, he didn't, like, they didn't think it was important enough to bring David in. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, so I just think of the identity things David could have wrestled with very easily. Maybe he did it when he was younger, but easily wrestled with of like, I'm rejected, not wanted. Like, could have had a lot of different things in that. But I think of Psalm 139. I'm going to read part of Psalm 139 because this is David writing. And now he didn't look to his family. It didn't look to his brothers or anybody else to tell him who he was. He looked to God, the God who created him. And that's what made David known as a man after God's own heart. And so this is what it says. I'll read some of it. It's the Psalm 139, 24 verses. I'm going to read a few. And this is David says, O Lord, you have searched me and you've known me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down, and acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. He goes on a little further. He says, for you formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. So my frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depth of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them. The days were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. And it goes on. But you see the sense of David in the midst of everything, that God, you know me. God, you formed me. God, my identity is in you and not in the other things. Yeah. And so that is the beginning point I want to challenge us with, is to not look to other people, other things, be it job, be it relationship, don't look to these things that tell us the core of our identity. We need to look to the God who created us. All the way back in Genesis, it says we're made in the image of God. And so in that, there's value and worth because God created us. We don't get our value and worth from what we do or from other people. We get our value and worth from the God that created us. And so much value and worth that, as the story goes in Scripture, that Jesus came and died for us. And that shows that he cared that much for us, that he's willing to suffer and die to buy us back from slavery of sin. Like, that's something we can't fully grasp. Like, we kind of just like, wow, that's amazing. Like, I don't understand it, because that's the value and love God had for us. And so we should look to this God, this God for who we are, not anything else. And it's not, again, saying that jobs and these things are bad. Like, you need to have a job. Like, yeah. But don't put our identity in those things. Put our identity in the God that created us. Look to Jesus who has saved us. And if you don't know Jesus, I encourage you, start reading through the Gospels. Jesus is the only way to life. And we talked about this last week. He's the only way to heaven, only way to salvation. And he is where life is found, redemption is found, new life is found. And when we've chosen to trust and give our life to him, it talks about how we are brought from death to life, from darkness to light, that we have a new identity, that we are old way is gone, and we're a new creation now. And so all this to say, if anxiety seems to be something many people wrestle with, and I didn't look at the date this statistics were put out, about 31%, but I'm curious of what it is now in 2025, because I'm curious if this is not 2025. I'm curious if it's higher. I don't know. But the point is, people wrestle with it. And I want to encourage us to look for a moment and be like, God, who have you created me to be? Look to him first. Look to him alone and find our identity, because that's the beginning point. Now, we're going to look at a little bit more of like purpose and suffering and different things that play into it, also anxiety. But the beginning point is finding and basing our identity in the God that created us. That's what I would see. Yeah. But what any other thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think you covered it. But yeah, just definitely look for your identity in God, and you'll be good.
And I have one verse I want to leave you with. It's Isaiah 26:3. It says, "You, as in God, you keep in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you." So this idea that there's this peace that is accompanied or comes with when we have our mind fixed on and focused on God, and we trust in him, and we look to him and him alone for who we are and where to go, and not to ourselves or other things. So that's what I'm going to leave us with. I hope it's encouraging. We'll deal with this more as the weeks go on, but this is just kind of a beginning point of talking about anxiety.
Yeah. Bye. See you next week.
See you guys next week.